Guys, what's going on? My name's Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Programs. And in today's brief video, we're going to go through a complete guide for nicotine withdrawal. If you're new to the channel, here at Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching, we help people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content. Let's jump right into it. What we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about why we experience nicotine withdrawal and how nicotine works, a timeline for each of the withdrawal symptoms, tips, mindsets, and tricks to help you overcome nicotine withdrawal. And at the end of this video, I'm going to go over common mistakes that people make during nicotine withdrawal that often result in relapse. Now, the information in today's presentation is based on 9 years of personal experience with nicotine withdrawal, on top of working with hundreds of clients and answering, honestly, thousands of DMs and emails that I get daily across our social media channels about nicotine withdrawal. I am so excited to share this with you. Nicotine itself is a very insidious drug. I think a lot of people watching this didn't expect to be here the first time they used nicotine. Now, we have to understand nicotine impacts several body functions and systems. It impacts our heart, it constricts our blood vessels, it plays a role in hormone production, our metabolism, it affects our gastrointestinal systems, and our brain function. It also impacts our stress hormones, such as cortisol. So you might hear some people saying they're quitting and they wind up developing acne, or they experience weight gain, or they get changes in their heart rate or headaches. That can all be related back to the role that nicotine plays and the way it impacts each of these systems in our bodies. It's insidious the way it creeps into our system. Consuming nicotine. Well, why did we fall in love with nicotine in the first place? I personally fell in love with nicotine the first time I used it. Well, it's a psychoactive stimulant that speeds up the messages between the brain and our body. You'll hear many people say, especially in the workout world, well, nicotine is a nootropic. Nicotine is actually good for the brain. And in some cases, look, we can argue yes all day long, but there's a lot of things that are good for the brain that aren't going to harm us at the same time. And oftentimes when we're consuming nicotine, it's in the form of tobacco or vape products, cigarettes, things that aren't really healthy for us. When we consume nicotine, serotonin rises, initially making us less depressed. It makes us temporarily happier. Dopamine is released, and dopamine, yes, it plays a role in appetite. It makes us less hungry. It makes us more happy. But above all else, dopamine trains us to repeat a behavior over and over again. So when we partake in a behavior that releases dopamine, such as consuming nicotine, our brain says, okay, do that again, do that behavior again and again and again. And it's for this reason, many of us, and I was once in this boat, we view nicotine as something that's just as important as the oxygen we breathe, just as important as the water we drink, even more important than food in some cases. How many of you guys have skipped a meal just to consume nicotine? Nicotine also increases our adrenaline levels, at least initially, giving us a greater sense of focus, alertness. It enhances our short-term memory and also puts us in this constant state of fight or flight response. That's what adrenaline does. Now, as you can imagine, if you're watching this, I'm going to almost guarantee that you feel depressed, you feel anxious, and you're suffering from an inability to focus, all of which can be contributed to chronic nicotine usage, which is really ironic because the things that it does for us short term, it actually destroys long term. And so many of us struggle to accept that fact. The sad truth about nicotine, all of the previously mentioned effects are very, very short lived. Nicotine's effects wear off in about 30 minutes. And it's arguable for those of you guys using vape products, which I once did too, tobacco, cigarettes, vapes, whatever, the effects of nicotine wear off in about 30 minutes. If you're using nicotine salts cross over your blood-brain barrier faster than free-base nicotine found in cigarettes and chewing tobacco, and it exits your body faster, which means that the withdrawal symptoms are going to kick in even quicker. Nicotine addiction keeps you in a constant withdrawal state. Daily withdrawal and detox is, in essence, what keeps you coming back for more nicotine. You are probably going through withdrawal right now if you're watching this video. You're simply too numb from nicotine addiction to realize that. And I want you guys, if you don't make it through this whole thing, which you really, really should, you fear withdrawal, but withdrawal is something that you're already experiencing on a day-to-day basis. When you're living with active nicotine addiction, you're already going through withdrawal. Are you making physical withdrawal symptoms worse? Well, we're about to talk a lot about physical withdrawal symptoms of nicotine, but I want you to understand that we can make these symptoms worse depending on the mindset that we approach this with. Each physical withdrawal symptom can be increased with the wrong mindset. Have you ever been upset, frustrated, or anxious to a point that you've become physically ill? Maybe you went through a bad breakup. Maybe you were really stressed over a test in school or a big life-changing event. Have you ever been so psychologically stressed that you've become physically ill? Well, if you view quitting nicotine as giving something up versus gaining back all these things in life that you want to gain back from quitting, you are guaranteed to prolong and increase your physical suffering while you're quitting. So if you're approaching this, I don't even like calling it quitting because it's not about what we're quitting. It's about what we're gaining back in life. Withdrawal is nothing more than this horrid drug leaving your body. And that's what this is. Nicotine addiction is a drug addiction. Withdrawal is a guaranteed signal that you are winning. This calls for celebration, not remorse. So what about a timeline for withdrawal symptoms? Well, I like the hashtag #GetThrough72 because days 3 through 5 are often the most challenging. And you don't have to take my word for it. Let's take it from the tough man himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
So I stopped cold turkey. I just stopped. I didn't need no process. I didn't need no help. I didn't need nobody to tell me what to do, how to do it. I just stopped. For 3.5 days, I felt like a piece of shit. I would go to Gold's Gym there in Venice, California, and I'd walk into that gym, try to work out, and after 2 sets, it felt like 6 hours. I turned around and walked out of that gym.
If you can get through the first 72 hours, your chances of success are significantly increased. And I'm talking about quitting nicotine cold turkey, and we'll talk about why I recommend cold turkey towards the end of this video. But if you can get through those first 3 days, there's a good chance you're going to beat this thing, especially if you can get to day number 14, 2 weeks, 3 days, and then 2 weeks. Those are hallmark days. So get through 72. What can you expect on the first day? Well, most people usually do fine. They're excited to quit and they feel pretty good overall. And there's a reason for this. They're going into this with a lot of motivation and they have a plan. But the bigger picture is on day 1, nicotine is still in your body. There's still nicotine flowing throughout your system. So you haven't really started nicotine withdrawal yet. Days 2 through 5, 3 through 5, this is where withdrawal usually peaks because this is the point where nicotine is actually beginning to detox from our bodies. You're well on your way during days 3 through 5 to detoxing this poison from your system. This is also when physical withdrawal symptoms typically peak, and that's why we see most people relapse. Withdrawal symptoms peak. People want to ease those withdrawal symptoms, so they pick up another cigarette, they take a hit of their vape, they have another dip. So buckle up for the first 3 to 5 days. For many people, it's day 3. What can you expect when you're trying to get through the first 72? One of the most common symptoms that people often complain about is headache and body aches. They usually refer to this as the quitter's flu. Headache usually results for a series of reasons. I think the main reason we suffer from headache is because a lot of people are struggling to fight off the cravings and they're stressing over it. They're creating that physical stress, which results in a headache. And then, of course, we're also getting increased blood flow. Nicotine is a stimulant. It's a vasoconstrictor, so it decreases blood flow, which, guys, is super unhealthy. Anything that's decreasing blood flow to your brain, in your bones, in your body. As some of you may know, I have osteoporosis from years of addiction to stimulants such as nicotine and other. Anything that decreases blood flow is bad. So when you quit, your blood vessels dilate, you start to get more blood flow, and that initially results in a headache. Because you can use things like Advil, Aleve, Tylenol. Always talk to your doctor, and I'm sure this is going to help. This will help with the muscle aches. This will help with the body pain. And I'm not telling you to get hooked on those things. Those medications send hundreds of people every year to the hospital with ulcers and other problems. I'm just talking about using them for a very temporary amount of time to help with the headache and the body ache for the first 3 to 5 days. If you want to look for something more natural, look into homeopathic products. There's a link in the description of the video for some CBD gummies that I recommend. I have another video on the benefits of CBD helping with nicotine withdrawal. You can look to things like arnica or herbs such as white willow bark. Again, I linked all of those things below if you don't want the over-the-counter pain medications. And I do recommend avoiding products with caffeine because caffeine is going to constrict those blood vessels again. And your blood vessels are healing right now. So we don't want to impede that healing process. Let's let them restore and get back to that normal state of health. Get through 72, day 3 to 5. Constipation. Oh my gosh, this is an annoying one. I remember constipation was probably the worst one for me because I'd always do a dip and shit. Like I'd throw in a dip and I'd take a shit. So here's my pro tip. Use Smooth Move tea. It's a laxative tea. It usually takes a few hours to kick in. So I'd recommend trying that on a weekend and focus on healthy nutrition. Stock up on berries. They're healthy in fiber. They have tons of micronutrients for you, which again, if you've been neglecting your nutrition, this is something you're going to want to focus on, your micronutrient intake, and they're going to help you go to the bathroom. Again, you can find Smooth Move Tea and the product links of the video description. Check that out. I recommend experimenting though on a weekend, and please don't become dependent upon laxatives. You may have some other underlying health condition that's been kind of covered up by nicotine use, and you have to go check that out. You have to go get that looked at if things aren't clearing up after the first few days in the case of constipation and whatnot. Insomnia. Oh my gosh, this is the one people DM me the most about. So listen, it is what it is. Let me repeat this to you. It is what it is. Stop trying to fight it. You're going to be sleeping better in no time. As I told you, nicotine is a stimulant. It oftentimes speeds up our heart rates. So that's not a good thing to do before bed, to do a stimulant. And there's many studies out there showing that people who consume nicotine before bed actually have a decreased quality of sleep. So please don't fight it. Here's my pro tip. Keep your room at a cool temperature, especially because you're probably going to be sweating over the next few days. Avoid caffeine at all costs. Try taking a warm shower before bed and partake in very light to moderate exercise. We'll talk about what I mean by not overdoing it in a little bit. And focus on sleep. Don't neglect your sleep. Don't sleep on sleep. It's been proven that when we have a good night's sleep, it increases our ability and our willpower to exercise self-control. So sleep is essential. Although in the first few days of quitting, your sleep is probably going to suck. Days 5 through 14, get through 2 weeks. Here's some of the symptoms: fatigue and brain fog. I think it really helps to get through nicotine withdrawal if we can understand why it's happening. Well, I think your body's experiencing these two things because you haven't been sleeping and you have decreased levels of adrenaline and you're having blood sugar fluctuations. Your adrenal glands and cortisol levels are probably a little mixed up right now too. So you're going to experience fatigue and brain fog. This is normal. Here's some pro tips. Again, stay away from the caffeine. If your body needs rest, give your body rest. I think the last thing you want to do is try and power through it. I think that's going to end really badly. Eat fruit and focus on healthy foods high in protein and healthy fats. I recommend things like hard-boiled eggs, chicken, grass-fed beef, tuna, anchovies, whatever you're into. You can find healthy foods online. I recommend more of a paleo-based nutrition program. Love eggs, love protein shakes, all great stuff. Take naps and move your body when you can. Simple movement, getting up and doing a few jumping jacks, doing a few push-ups, going for a walk. Moving increases dopamine and serotonin. So please consider doing this. This is why so many people fall in love with exercise when they first start to overcome an addiction. Get through 2 weeks, days 5 through 14, coughing. If you vape, if you smoke cigarettes, your lungs are trying to detox all of the pollutants that you've been consuming. This can last up to 4 weeks. Now, of course, make sure it's not COVID. If you're having symptoms, talk to your doctor. Maybe you want to go in and get a chest x-ray to make sure that everything looks okay, but expect to have an ongoing cough. There's a supplement out there in the video description called Clear Lungs. This is not something you need to get, but it's an option for those of you that are struggling to help with the lung detoxification process. And guys, don't be surprised if this chronic kind of coughing leads to low back pain or mid back pain. It's very, very common. We see it all the time. I just want you to understand what's going on in your body during this time. Days 5 through 14 continued. Irritability and depression. Of course, you're going to experience this at first. I hope you're not experiencing this because you're under the impression that you're giving something up or making a sacrifice. If that's the case, we need to work on your mindset. But what's happening from a physiological standpoint? Decreased levels of serotonin, decreased levels of dopamine, a lack of sleep, and once again, blood sugar changes. My best advice for this, guys, tell people who you are closest to what's going on. And if you are irritable and you're snapping at people, apologize to them. But when you apologize, repeat back to them what it is you're apologizing for. I'm sorry I yelled at you because we ran out of milk today. That was irrational. And I recognize that I'm going through nicotine withdrawal, and I didn't mean to speak to you like that. I'm truly sorry. I think there's so many things that you can learn when you recover and get sober from nicotine, tools that you can use, like this apology technique, that you can apply to multiple aspects of your life. Days 14 through 90-ish. Now we're moving on a little bit. Anxiety. A lot of people usually start to experience anxiety around days 3 to 5 because of that feeling that something is missing. I used to leave my house and I'd go car keys, wallet, phone, vape, car keys, wallet, phone, tin, whatever the nicotine product was. And we get anxiety when we don't have those things, especially in the scenario if we're addicted to vaping. Remember, vapes are ingenious because they got you addicted to a piece of technology the same way that we all experience a cell phone addiction to an extent. So I think you're going to experience that feeling of something is missing, and that often can lead to anxiety. Now, anxiety can also result from changes in heart rate that occur, especially if you start to experience tachycardia, increased or irregular heart rate patterns, that heart speeds up, and then you start to get anxiety from that. And if you're experiencing that and it's not subsiding, please go talk to a cardiologist, because there might be a medication out there for a little temporary period of time that you can take that can help you out. But of course, meditation, yoga, stuff like that is also great. Anxiety should subside a lot within the first 2 weeks, especially by day 90. And guys, if you struggle with anxiety, pick up this book by Oliver Sacks, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. This is an incredible book with incredible coping techniques when it comes to anxiety. When we quit nicotine, part of the withdrawal process, in my opinion, is we oftentimes don't know how to cope because nicotine was our coping mechanism. And I think if you guys pick up this book, it's going to work wonders for you. And of course, if you need to work with someone, please do. Weight gain, days 14 through 90. Yes, you are going to experience appetite changes, but if you have fruit on hand, if you have healthy foods on hand and you reach for those foods and you're partaking in light to moderate exercise and you're trying to improve your sleep and you're taking care of yourself, this won't happen. This is a myth. It doesn't have to occur. It does for many people, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. If your coping was gaining 5 pounds during the process, no big deal. We can focus on weight loss afterwards. Days 14 through 90 continued. Cravings, 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 cravings. You're gonna get cravings because you have billions more nicotine receptors in your brain than someone who doesn't use nicotine, that are screaming at you to go pick up another cigarette, to go buy another vape. Okay. I have made several videos on cravings, providing techniques on how to manage them. And I've linked all of those videos in the description of this video. And I think oftentimes one of the main reasons we experience cravings is because of a feeling of boredom. You have to embrace the fact that nicotine does not cure boredom in the same way that alcohol or weed doesn't. It simply makes you content with being bored. If you're bored all the time, it's because you're a boring person. And we need to change that. We need to get you out there. We need to get you doing things again. And that's okay. I was there too. But now look, now I'm not boring. I'm having a blast doing this. I don't know. Maybe you think I'm lame as hell. I don't know. Some other symptoms that you may experience: numbness and tingling in your hands and feet, sweating, lots of sweating. Guys, get ready to embrace the sweating. This is your body detoxing. You can't avoid it, embrace it. Maybe you want to go to a sauna. Maybe you want to take a hot yoga class. That's what I did. I said, screw it. If I'm going to sweat, I'm going to make sweating worthwhile. Awesome. You might get some restlessness and some tremors. You might get muscle twitching in your biceps, your eyes, your legs, all very, very common because of the dopamine fluctuations. And as we discussed many times, that increased or decreased heart rate. Day 90. If you guys make it to day 90, you are probably there. I think after about 2 weeks, many of these symptoms subside for people because all the nicotine is physically left your body and cocaine, the byproduct at that point. But if you can get to day 90, the receptors in your brain have pretty much returned to normal levels. And one of my favorite images when I was going through nicotine withdrawal and I was getting these symptoms, I'd say, oh, that's those dying nicotine receptors saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. And I said, shut up, you're going to starve. I'm going to starve you guys because I want a normal life again. I don't want this. I don't want this. It can take it's up to a full year for your brain to fully heal. Okay. 365 days. That's been proven on brain scans. It is what it is. Listen, that does not mean you're going to struggle for a year. That's not what I mean. I'm just explaining to you the science. Some people don't struggle at all. Some people quit, they're done with it, and they move on. And those are the people that have the most success, the people who don't make a big deal of this. You're going to tell yourself just one more. The only reason you would have one more is if you want to live a life in a constant state of nicotine withdrawal forever. There is no such thing as just one more. Stop lying to yourself and call out that lie every time those addictive nicotine receptors in your brain tell it to you. There's no worse feeling in the world than continuing to do something you no longer want to do anymore. Detoxing and quitting nicotine has a clearly defined end in sight. Addiction has no end. Please remember that. Maintain that mindset throughout your quitting journey. Why do people fail? Why do so many people struggle with this? I think a big reason is because nicotine companies, cigarette companies, vaping companies, they love to talk about what a big deal nicotine withdrawal is. And it's not. Alcohol withdrawal is a big deal. Withdrawing from Xanax is a big deal. Coming off of hard prescription drugs is a big deal. This doesn't have to be. We make it out to more than it needs to be. And the nicotine industry loves it. They thrive on it. Some other reasons: people don't have a plan. People don't know what to expect, and they're caught off guard when they experience random symptoms. Patience. People don't have patience. I remember many times when I quit, I'd say, I quit. Why don't I feel better? Screw it. It's not worth quitting. I don't feel better. This is normal, and you cannot rush the process. Don't try and rush it. A lot of people, what they'll do, and this is a major mistake, is they'll try and rush the detox process. They won't acknowledge that they have the quitter's flu or that they're sick for a little bit. And they'll work out excessively, and they'll go to the sauna, and they'll take all these detox products. And what you're actually doing is pumping nicotine out of your system at a rate that's faster than your body can probably process it. And that's going to make you feel like complete ass. It's going to make you feel so bad. So don't rush the process. Be moderate, be conservative in the things that you do over the next week or two. Remember, you have the flu and it's going to pass. Don't rush the process, or you might find yourself relapsing because the withdrawals might become too significant. Why do people fail? They modify their life in significant ways. Don't do this. If people can learn how to walk again after a serious brain injury or car accident, or after being in a coma, you can learn how to go through your day-to-day routines without nicotine. And that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to live your life. I don't want you to give this any more attention than you already have if you're still with me in this video. Of course, avoid situations and circumstances that pose a significant chance of relapse. Addiction is going to try and place you in situations where it can thrive, and you shouldn't give that to addiction. Limit those circumstances, especially in the beginning. Avoid alcohol and trading one substance for another. It goes without saying, alcohol leads to dumb decisions, and relapse is often one of them on nicotine when we're drinking. So consider getting rid of alcohol for a few weeks. Okay, I'm not saying forever, but for a little bit. And with that being said, realize too, a lot of people, when they quit nicotine, they'll start smoking more weed or they'll start drinking alcohol. Don't do that. The goal of this is to feel better, not to trade one addiction for another. Focus on sleep and take care of yourself. Now is not the time to load up on tons of junk food and develop erratic sleep patterns and go off the hinges. The goal is to feel better. Another tip that I recommend, pick up a high performance planner. I have a link for one in the video description below. It's a planner that allows you to track your health and your progress in your day-to-day routines and activities. It's a planner that helps you reorganize your life in a way that's going to be productive for you. And it's an awesome planner. I'd highly recommend checking it out. And consider downloading something like the Quit Vaping app. There's a great community of people on there quitting. If you want to be part of a community that supports you and helps you, check that out. Here's some little tricks and some closing words. You don't need nicotine to quit nicotine. You don't need nicotine to quit nicotine. That is the biggest lie we've ever been told. So no, I'm not a fan of nicotine replacement therapy. In my opinion, it simply prolongs the inevitable. It's like a Band-Aid. Rip that little thing off. Check out some sugar-free candies in the first few days or so, okay? You can find the link in the description below. Look at the Quit Smoking Aid soft tip inhaler. You don't need this, guys. And honestly, I don't recommend things like this, okay? But for some people, it may be of a help. And use tools and books on quitting that are also found in the video description below. Alan Carr's book, The Easy Way to Quit Smoking, it applies to vaping too. An excellent book. I linked another channel on YouTube that's dedicated to helping people quit smoking and quitting nicotine. An excellent channel. Use the tools, use the resources. The last thing you want to do is curl up in a ball and say, I can't do this. No one understands what I'm going through. I'm not going to succeed. You can do this. Millions, thousands of people accomplish this every single year. And there's no reason why you can't be one of them. Guys, why don't you follow me into the video description below and check out some other videos, whether it's on cravings or maybe some of the products that I mentioned. I'll see you guys in the description below. Of course, ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to answer them for you. I'll see you there.